This here is another viewer's broken gaming PC. I usually walk these into frame, but this one's pretty heavy. I don't want to take any chances. This was actually built by the viewer in question for his son for Christmas. So a bit of an early Christmas present. He wasn't going to give it to him until that day, but he wanted to build it, assemble it, make sure that it powered up and worked before giving it to him, right? Because you don't want to run into these issues 2-3 months later, especially if you can RMA things within 14, 30 days or so on Amazon. It depends on where you get your parts. But you know, going through a distributor like that, it's usually a bit quicker. You can get a replacement very fast. Going through the manufacturer, sometimes they gotta test things, and shipping's never really that quick. So I don't blame them for wanting to have that peace of mind. Unfortunately, it doesn't power on at all. He literally gets no reaction from anything in the rig, no lights, no fan spin, nada. When I saw this entry on our forum, which is linked in the video description, by the way, if you live in or around Orlando, Florida and have a broken system you'd like us to fix or potentially fix for free, check that out. I knew right away I wanted to try to fix this because, I mean, brand new parts, there's no reason why it should be acting like this, right? I mean, it's essentially doing this right here. There's the power button. Yeah, I mean, whether it's plugged in or not, it doesn't react at all to being powered on, or what should be powering on. So it seems like hardware, something hardware-wise is wrong. Maybe something's wired incorrectly. It could be a very obvious thing that he was overlooking. I've been in that boat many times. So we're gonna give it the rundown, and hopefully we can have this thing up and running again just in time for Christmas. We're a bit early, but definitely want to have it ready before Christmas, right? So at the very least, I can tell him what's wrong so he knows how to address it, because these components are all new. But I think we'll be able to figure it out. I mean, for a system not to power on at all, it's probably either a power supply issue or a wiring issue. Maybe whatever wall he plugged it into wasn't sending power either. I mean, who knows? So we're gonna do our best to narrow it down here. Are you ready? Stay with me.
NZXT's H7 series cases offer plenty of hardware support and a clean aesthetic sure to complement any build. Choose between white or black variants, as well as standard, flow, or elite trims for the right mixture of airflow and beauty. There's plenty of room up top for a fan rad combo larger than just a single 120 or 140, and support for up to a 360mm up front exists for beefy cooling wherever it's needed. You'll also find several fans included depending on the model. If you choose the white one, you'll get white fans, so that's nice. NZXT cases are overall great values, as you'll find, and you can learn more about them by clicking the link below.
Hey there, and welcome to our Fix or Flop playlist. I'm not going to bother running through the same things I always do. Just remember that you have that link down there if you want to submit your PC to potentially be fixed if it has an issue and you're local. You have to be local, no exceptions. We do this stuff for free, long story short. So, you know, I can make money on YouTube creating videos like these around these PCs, and I think it's a pretty worthy trade-off for those who drive out to meet me. So let's get straight into it. I'm gonna fire this system up, or at least attempt to, with our portable monitor. It's important that the owner and I are on the same page, and that's one of the reasons why you wanna check that the symptoms you're seeing match up with what they're describing. We also can get a good baseline by doing things this way. So power on at the rear. I don't see any reaction by any of the components so far. Sometimes things will light up. Let's try power. Yeesh. Yeah, this thing's dead as a doorknob, and I know for a fact that my outlet's sending power. So I think the first place I'm gonna look is wiring at the rear, mainly the power supply itself. We'll also try swapping out the power supply, seeing if that gives us anything, because this looks totally bricked, and it reeks of a power supply issue. So let's see what we're working with back here. I was told cable management wasn't the best. It's not the end of the world, so we might, I mean, it actually looks decent. I mean, the cable management bar here really helps. Let's see if we've got anything unplugged on the power supply side. Everything looks good so far. I really want to get this panel out of the way. Yeah, it looks like everything is okay here. Everything's connected where it should be. Nothing loose. So I am inclined to test this unit next. We're going to use our PSU tester. We've got the 24-pin, 8-pin EPS, and the 6-pin PCIe connected. This little extra 2-pin here is just additional grounds for higher power draw. Let's go ahead and hold down the power button. Oh, Okay, so this is interesting because when we bypass the main board and the graphics card, we actually get power to our peripherals. That's very interesting because it means there's probably a short somewhere in and around the main board and the graphics card. Not what I expected. This power supply is perfectly fine. So yeah, at least it kind of points us in the right direction now. So not the power supply. Let's try the graphics card. I doubt that's what's shorting the whole rig, but I've seen weirder things before. By the way, I did check all of his major connections on the component side prior to this, as well as what you saw with the power supply itself. Everything was connected where it should be. It was all slotted in completely. So, you know what I just noticed? These are extensions. They look fine, but I'd really like to bypass these because you just never know. These don't look to be very premium either. So let's run PCI connectors directly into this card and see if these are the issue. Although I will say, I don't see any physical damage anywhere. Now we've just got one daisy-chained original power supply PCIe supplemental cable connected. So that's it. And we're gonna swing around here to the back. I know it's a rat's nest, ignore that. Power supply switch here. And let's see if she works. Yeah. Nothing. In that case, let's remove his graphics card and we'll slot in our trusty XFX one. So new card and bypassing PCIe cables, but still nothing, even after manually jumping the front panel pins and after disconnecting all non-vitals. This is looking like a motherboard issue. I think if the CPU would be bricked, the system would still try to fire up, it just wouldn't post. You get code 00 or something like that if you had a Dr. Debug LED. I think something is shorted on the motherboard itself, and that's what's keeping the system from even firing up in the first place. The power supply notices right away that something is very, very wrong here. By the way, because we have so many folks ask after each one of these episodes, yes, we have already tried clearing the CMOS. We also tried different sticks of DDR4. Those are both very, very easy and quick to do, quick to check, so getting those out of the way up front makes a lot of sense. Of course, it changed nothing about the fact that this rig doesn't even power on. So we're gonna swap the motherboard first. Normally I'd swap the CPU, but for the reasons I just discussed, this really smells like a motherboard problem by this point, which is surprising because I was pretty confident it would be a power supply issue at first. But I think the power supply is actually what's saving the rig from further damage here. We'll also take this opportunity to check the pins for the CPU. This is an AMD Ryzen chip, and we'll check the socket to see if there's any major interference. And I don't see any indication that there was any shorting of the motherboard by the case. The standoffs are where they should be, no metal bits sticking out from behind. Let's see what CPU we have here. It is a Ryzen 9 3950X. Nice, so that should work natively with B550 motherboards. I was told by the owner that he attempted at one point updating the BIOS via the BIOS flashback function that this board supports. He didn't do it the right way though. He left the power on and did a few other things that he probably shouldn't have done. I don't think that was the issue to begin with though. If you have a BIOS that's incompatible with the CPU, you'll still get some sort of reaction by the system. Things should still power on, you just won't get a signal to your monitor. I looked at his CPU pins very closely. I don't see any issues here, and his motherboard socket is also clean. I mean, it's a new product, new board, so it shouldn't have any filth in it. But I do think there's still an issue with this. So we're gonna swap this out for one that Gigabyte sent us for this very playlist. This is a Gigabyte B550 Aorus Elite AX V2. I know, long name, but this sticks with the same chipset as one he already has in his rig and has pretty much all the same features his has as well. I've got things sort of just mock fitted for now, nothing tightened down yet except for the cooler so that the CPU doesn't overheat, and I think that is okay. Let's flip the power at the rear. Ooh, right away saw some flashes on the board. That's weird. Is it? Could it be the chip? Ain't no way it's the chip. What? Are you serious? So it looks like this board here is trying to tell us that there's something wrong with the CPU. This is so odd. I was dead set on this being a CPU problem. I'm pretty shocked that it's not. Let's see, I'm gonna get front panel connected here just in case I'm not jumping correctly, or if I'm crossing pins. And power. Yeah, there's nothing, just a flashing motherboard. What on earth? All right then, so we'll get another CPU in here. This thing is still flashing. I don't know, maybe that's just the way the board indicates there's a CPU problem. I've seen, I think, that flashing once before, and I think it was a CPU problem. And I think it was a Gigabyte board that the CPU was connected to. So that, to me, is the only other option here. Again, it's not the RAM, we already tested that. It's not the graphics card. It's apparently not the motherboard, unless both the motherboard and the CPU are bricked, because it's still not posting. There's no power at all. At least we're getting some lights here, but the system's not powering on. So I think we're cornered into swapping the CPU again, and this would be another Zen 2 chip with an issue. And this one is virtually brand new, according to the owner. So now, just through process of elimination, we're gonna try a replaced CPU with his original motherboard. I've got a pretty good feeling this is gonna work now that we pretty much have nowhere else to turn. So now the only changed component in his rig is the CPU. Everything else is back to stock. I didn't connect the extension cables yet, but I don't think those are the issue. So let's go ahead and power on. I think this is gonna work. Got a good feeling this time. Yes. Let there be light. All right, so CPU. I really didn't expect this. Like I said, most of the time if the CPU is to blame, you know, the system will turn on, it just won't post, it won't send a picture out. It's kind of a tease, so to speak. But in this case, the CPU is completely bricking the rest of the rig. It would not let anything power on at all. And I'm not sure if there was just something, some kind of fail-safe, something was tripping in the power supply. Maybe the motherboard could tell there was some sort of short in the CPU. It's probably an internal short because we can't, we haven't identified any broken or missing pins or anything. So I'm left to believe it's just, yeah, an internally fried chip, which is a shame because this is brand new. And I don't have another 3950X. I have one 5950X, but I really want to keep that for recursive testing in the future, and they're not cheap. They're still like $500–600. So I'm going to reach out to the owner. There's our post. I'm gonna reach out to him and triple check that that CPU is brand new. I'm gonna see if he can get it returned, and if he is outside the return window for the vendor, for the distributor, I should say, so if you bought from Amazon, if he's outside their return policy window, then what I'll do is reach out to AMD directly. I'll send this into them and get them to send a replacement pretty quick for him, so we can get him up and running well before Christmas. Now, while I'm waiting for him to respond, I was just looking over his rig. We've obviously got a lot of stuff still disconnected. I don't think this is gonna impact the rig really at all, the storage drives and whatnot. But I noticed that one of his fans isn't rotating, and so if we come back here, it looks like, yeah, this one right here. So that'll be a super quick fix.
Day 2.
I ran a few tests off camera overnight just to confirm that this 3950X was in fact bricked and that there was nothing we could do about it. I ran a totally independent system, B550 Gigabyte board, our old XFX graphics card, a totally different power supply, and a different stick of DDR4. And nothing. There was no reaction from the platform at all, no RGBs. Of course, it would not power on. Oddly enough, switching in a 5500, known and working, resulted in not only the system powering on, but we were even getting LEDs on the DRAM even before we powered it on. Just by flipping the power supply switch and kind of having that auxiliary power run, the DRAM was lighting up. We weren't getting that with this 3950X in the rig. So something is terribly wrong with this. I am certain that this is the culprit. And at this point, we're kind of at a crossroads. I've been thinking a lot about how I want to approach this, because what I usually do is replace the component that's defective, and I keep the defective one, because there is an off chance I'm able to get this thing returned to the vendor and they'll send me a replacement, and I really have to watch my inventory levels, because doing this for free means that well, we get a lot of inquiries and we have a lot of parts moving in and out all the time. The problem is most of the parts moving in are broken, because that's kind of the point of the playlist. So I was thinking about this, you know, his 3950X, if what he's telling me is true about this only being about 4 months old, he bought this on Amazon apparently, he's outside the Amazon return window, yes, but this is clearly well within the AMD warranty service that they offer. So we might be able to get a replacement for this. It's just not going to take, it's not going to take 2 or 3 days. It's going to take probably 2 or 3 weeks, maybe even 2 to 3 months. I've never gone through the warranty service on AMD's site, so I'm not sure what all is involved, although you can see here the form you'll need to fill out. I almost want to just tell them, go this route, but you know, there's not 100% certainty involved. They might end up returning the chip and claim that we did something to it. Who knows? But I would have a higher chance probably of getting a replacement, just because of the position that I'm in, and I don't think that's fair to the viewer, to the owner of this rig who might be left hanging. It's just how companies are. So what I'm going to do is keep my known and working 5500 in this rig for him. So without a doubt, his rig is guaranteed to work. That is clearly a downgrade, even though it's a newer architecture. It's got significantly fewer cores, and I think the frequency is actually lower as well. So core for core, this might be just the better chip all around. But that aside, at least the system works again, and then he'll have this, I'm going to give this back to him, and he'll have a chance to get this replaced by AMD. And I'm already in talks with AMD, or at least I've sent a message to them. They haven't replied back yet, so it's not really us talking back and forth. But hopefully they reply, and they can get this this gentleman set up with a replacement, because there's no excuse for this. It arrived DOA. I'm almost certain on that part. I think that I mean, if his story is true, I don't see why this owner would be lying to me about this, because he was convinced it was something totally, he thought it was a motherboard. He had a replacement motherboard on order, and I told him, hey, just cancel the order, don't worry about that, I can replace the motherboard for free. So if it is the motherboard, there's no need for you to order one anyway. So we canceled that. He was grateful, but yeah, I mean, it was the CPU. He thought what I thought. At a certain point, I thought the motherboard was to blame. I thought the power supply was to blame before that, so this was a roller coaster. But yeah, this thing's bricked. And because I can't guarantee on AMD's behalf that he'll get a replacement chip, I at least want to have a 5500 in here for him, so that if the time comes and he can't get a replacement for this higher end chip, at least he'll have a working rig to give his son for Christmas. The last thing to do then, with all of the smaller cables and things wired up, this system should be ready to go. I want to fire it up, make sure that we didn't do anything wrong in that rewiring process. Oh, there it goes, okay. Always a bit of a delay at first. We'll make sure all the fans are spinning. Everything up top looks good. We fixed that middle fan there at the back, and the bottom fans are spinning. All the RGB looks to be working. And I was making sure that thing, that one fan stopped for a second. Corsair IQ does that occasionally. Yep, all the RGB looks good. I think we've got everything wired up. And yeah, now we're just looking for a post. Give me something. There we go. All right, so should be up straight into the BIOS. Now, he hasn't installed Windows in this yet. It's brand new. I don't even know if he's going to install Windows, or if he's going to install something different like Linux, or if it's even Windows 10 or Windows 11 he prefers. So I'm going to leave it as is. Again, it's a brand new build. I'll let him customize it from there. We have video tutorials, plenty of others do as well on YouTube, to guide him through the remainder of this process. So, yep, looks pretty darn good. With that, thank you so much for watching. Jeremy's going to kill me because I just redid this entire outro. He probably thought the first take was going to be a good one, but no, I'm redoing it because it didn't end very well. Sometimes I slur my words and it just doesn't work out. But yeah, I'm glad this system is back up and running again. I think it makes the most sense giving him back his original broken CPU as well, just in the off chance he's going to be able to get that replaced by AMD free of charge. And this will give him the quickest turnaround as well. Peace of mind all around. If you enjoyed this one, consider giving it a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought about this one. I know my troubleshooting MO is a bit unorthodox. There's usually like a recommended list of things you should run through step by step. Check this, then that, then that, then that. And I mean, yeah, that can work, and it will make sure that you cover all your bases for sure. But I enjoy just trying to sniff things out myself, pinpoint things as quickly as I can. Maybe I get it totally wrong, maybe I don't. But I think that makes for a better troubleshooting process here on camera. I can treat it more like a puzzle instead of just a check this, then that, then that. It just gets very boring that way. So I'm trying to get better at sniffing out the issues. And clearly I was off here. I was totally off. Hindsight's always 20/20. Why didn't you check this first? You should have checked that. I mean, apart from, swapping RAM, checking RAM seating, clearing the CMOS. I mean, those are the really quick things you can get out of the way in literally seconds. But part swapping, that you kind of just have to play by ear. I thought it was a power supply. I was wrong. And then I thought it was a motherboard. I was wrong. Its original motherboard is back in here working just fine. It ended up being the CPU. Yet again, another CPU issue. How did I start this playlist off? I remember saying something along the lines of CPUs usually don't just randomly die. I am eating severe crow for that statement. And it's turning out that a lot of AMD CPUs especially have made their way into the studio. A lot of Zen 2 chips in particular have been kicking the can. So we'll see what we can find there. Other than that, yeah, if I haven't already said it, like, subscribe. If you haven't already, comment down below. And remember that if you have a broken system and you live in or around Orlando, Florida, you have a chance to have it fixed for free. Click the link in the description and submit that form with some photos, brief description of the issue, and your parts list, specifications. That would be greatly appreciated. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. There's a lot of inquiries, but give it maybe 6-7 days. And you should hear back from me, whether I approve or reject the form itself, or if I reach out to you directly with my burner number. All that should happen within the course of a week or so. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Okay, now, thanks for watching this far into this one, and stay tuned for the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for learning with me.